Hello, my beautiful wedding planning friends. All right, so the last few episodes, we have been talking all about the prep work before the actual wedding planning begins, getting you guys on the same page. And there's one last thing to tackle together, and that is talking to the parents, telling them you are engaged and diving into those tricky wedding details, like if they're going to be financially contributing to your wedding and how many friends they want to invite. Those are the main two, but also setting boundaries and seeing how they want to help with the wedding. But don't worry, we've got you covered. We'll be breaking down how to navigate these important conversations with grace and confidence. Hi, everyone. I'm Tiffany Lanier, your wedding planning guru, and welcome to Big Day DIY Podcast. Today, we're tackling the parental wedding talk. This is mainly for those that are hoping your parents will chip in to the wedding pot, but we will also cover some other potential issues, so all of the cards are on the table. Let's face it, it's best to have this discussion early on, so why not do it when you tell them the good news? Today we're going to cover how to prepare for this conversation, where to do it, and what to say. Let's dive in and break it all down. Before you think about breaking the big news to your parents, it's time to have a heart-to-heart with your partner. First, pull out the Big Four worksheet that we did in episode 3. This reminds you about your vision, which location you were leaning towards, what style of wedding you were both looking forward to, what was the budget that you agreed upon, and how much you were hoping that your families would contribute. Also, pull out the preliminary guest list, because you're going to want that for the meeting as well. Then let's discuss your boundaries. Every couple has their non-negotiables. Areas where they want complete control, and then there's areas that you are totally open to outside opinions. For instance, maybe you're set on the catering and the entertainment, but you're totally open to decor and the ceremony setup. Identifying the areas where you both are solid about what you want and the areas that are open to discussion allows you both to be on a united front when outside people, not just the parents, try to put their 2 cents in. Next, we will want to revisit the potential issues list that we went through in the last episode. Thinking about both of the families separately, do you think anybody will have strong opinions about how your wedding should be? Do you think there'll be any sensitive areas or issues that you need to navigate? For instance, divorced parents, estranged siblings, or family member that just likes to create tons of drama? And on the flip side of that, is there someone in your family you wish would help you with the wedding planning, that you would love their input and their opinions on decor or catering? And then, thinking about your parents, how many people do you think that they will want to invite? Their friends, extended family members, those people that you originally did not include on your preliminary guest list. Think about how many people they will potentially want to invite, how many more people that you didn't give them on the preliminary guest list. Does it screw up your guest list numbers? Or how does it affect your original wedding budget? Also, did you identify any specific people that you know your parents want to invite, but you do not want them at the wedding? If so, discuss with each other how you want to handle that. I recommend telling the parents right from the get-go that that person is not invited, so that they don't get all excited about hearing about your engagement and then immediately sending out a group text to all of their friends, including the one you don't want there, and telling them about the wedding. So tell them from the get-go that this particular person is not invited to the wedding. It might be sensitive or a tricky discussion to have, but I really think that you should put down those boundaries early on without hurting anybody's feelings or creating animosity, so it's all out on the table and the parents know exactly your wishes. And lastly, during your couple's huddle, discuss how much money you are hoping each side of the family will contribute, and if you think that money will come with strings attached. Are these strings deal breakers? Think about what you think the parents will ask for and how you will set boundaries and expectations right from the beginning. Remember that if one side of the family cannot contribute as much as the other, there should not be any judgment or resentment. This is not a competition. nor should it be expected. In that same topic, if one side can't contribute financially at all, then maybe they can help with the planning or preparing the food or making signage. There are lots of ways to contribute, not just with money. All right. Now that you both have had time to discuss with each other your boundaries and how you want to handle potential issues, it is time for step 2, setting the stage for the big reveal. This is one of the most exciting moments of your engagement journey, telling the parents. So how do we create the perfect environment for this pivotal conversation? First, deciding on the location. An in-person meeting is ideal. If at all possible, plan it to be in person, where not only you can share the excitement, but also dive into the serious stuff. Choose a location that allows both celebration and meaningful conversations. For instance, a cozy family dinner at home, or a brunch in a favorite cafe during a slow time. This setting should feel natural and comfortable for everybody, and definitely not noisy or busy. If your parents live far away, a video chat is a good second choice. Video lets you see each other's reactions and foster a sense of closeness. A phone call should be the last resort, but it can work in a pinch if everyone's schedule is tight. Now, deciding whether you want to have a discussion with all parents at the same time or separate conversations. So this is totally up to you, and it is about who your parents are, if they already know each other, if they get along, all of that. If everybody gets along and the logistics allow, combine the meeting with both sets of parents to get it like one and done. Keep in mind, though, that more voices can mean more opinions. So go into this with a clear plan and boundaries, and also having the financial conversation in front of other parents might be a little uncomfortable and put unintended pressure on. So just be thoughtful and considerate when having that particular conversation in the group meeting like this. If you're going to do separate conversations, that might work out really nicely, because then you're able to tailor the conversation to each family's preference and avoid any potential tension. So schedule those meetings this week. That way, everybody's on the same page and you know exactly the financial contributions that you can expect from the parents, and you can move on to look at venues and vendors. All right, step 3, having the conversation. When you finally get together, obviously, start with the big news. We're engaged. Woo! Pop the champagne, do all the celebratory stuff, hugs and kisses, all the things. Then, talk to them about your wedding vision. Transition into the practical elements and make a statement like, quote unquote, "We've talked a lot about what we envision for our wedding and wanted to share some of these details with you." This tells them to hold off on their ideas because you've already had a plan. You can even bring a vision board or the Pinterest to show them what you were thinking about. This also tells them that you've thought a lot about this and that you already have your vision for the wedding, and they don't need to worry about it. Then, if you are asking for financial help, dip your toe in the water. This is where you introduce it kind of carefully and in an open way. So something like, "We'd also love to hear your thoughts on how you might want to be involved, whether that's with the planning, hosting an event, or contributing in any way." Write that down. Because it's such an open question. This is where they can say, "Oh, yeah, we've been saving up for this day our whole lives, your whole life, you know?" So again, we'd love to hear your thoughts about how you might want to be involved, whether that's planning, hosting an event, or contributing in any way. Something like that, it opens the door to the deeper conversation of money. All right, let's go deeper on the money talk. Because let's face it, talking about money can be awkward, but it is also necessary. So if you're covering the wedding yourselves and you do not want any financial help from them, let them know from the get-go. Let them know that you are paying for the wedding, that everything is taken care of. They don't need to worry about financially contributing, but if they would like to contribute, then be clear that their support would be appreciated but not expected. You can also consider asking bluntly, are you willing to financially contribute, and if so, how much? Parents might be thinking about how their parents helped them with their wedding. So back in the day, old-fashioned ways, the groom's parents paid for certain things like the rehearsal dinner, which that happens a lot still. But groom's parents, let's say, would pay for the cake or the flowers, and the bride's parents would pay for the dress and the food and the beverage and the venue. So that's how they were brought up, is that certain parents pay for certain aspects of the wedding. But now it's not that way anymore. It's a thing of the past. Now it's easier for both parents and the couple if the parents just gave what they can afford. They can deposit that money into your wedding planning account, which we will talk about when we get to the budget episodes. But for right now, you're just asking for a bottom line number. And a reminder, if one family can give more than the other, which is usually the case, then it's okay. Traditionally, the groom's parents pay less. However, again, it's whatever they're comfortable with. And just as a side note, talking about the groom's parents and that rehearsal dinner, most of the time they're going to be hosting that dinner. So be clear if this contribution applies towards the rehearsal dinner or just the wedding. Sometimes the parents don't know what an appropriate contribution is. Again, really, whatever they can easily afford and whatever they're more comfortable to contribute is the answer. However, if they ask you for an exact number, you can tell them how much you think your wedding would cost. Going back to your budget conversation when you were saying what your min and max were for your budget, pull that out and say, I think my vision is going to cost X amount of money, and any amount towards that number would be super appreciated. Remember, the average wedding costs $15,000 to $60,000 and even more. Something to ask yourself if you think the parents will contribute is what if? What if you decide that planning a big wedding isn't actually what you wanted and you prefer a smaller event, which actually costs less than what your parents contributed? Would you give the balance back to your parents? Or would you use it for the honeymoon or towards a down payment on the house? And then the other pretty big questions to talk about is, what is their desired level of involvement? Do they want to be hands-on or simply enjoy the ride? Do they want to help, or would they rather you handle everything? Are they planning any other special events like engagement parties or the rehearsal dinner? This might be a question for after, once the celebratory dust is settled, but keep in mind that if you were hoping that they would host another event, planting the seed in this conversation would be super helpful for opening the conversation later on. And then that guest list question. How many guests might they want to invite? You two already talked about this, so now it's time to see what they say. I recommend telling them who you already have on your preliminary guest list that you think that they will want to invite so that they know who's already included. Then ask them, who else would you like to invite? And write down who they say. And make sure to discuss at that moment if you're okay with inviting those people or not. Have the uncomfortable conversation about who you want at your wedding now, again, so it doesn't cause problems later on. Reminder that even if your parents pay 100% of your wedding, it's still your wedding, and you get to dictate who you are surrounded by on your big day. And if your parents or family will try to control the guest list by the amount of money that they contributed, then consider having a smaller wedding or just not accepting financial contributions from them at all if they're going to try to use it to manipulate you. It's a very tricky situation here, but you know already, they're your parents, you know if they're going to try to use that money to manipulate you or not. So if that's the case, talk amongst yourselves about whether you even want to take their money for the wedding. Okay, now that you've asked all of your questions, make sure to give them the space to share any special requests or concerns. See if they have any potential issues that they see that might arise, or maybe that they can think of resources that may be helpful in the planning process that you didn't think of. This dialogue fosters understanding and ensures everyone feels heard. Also, having this discussion, please go into it with an open mind. Stay focused on your original vision, but also stay flexible and open. If someone reacts unexpectedly, whether it's overjoyed, overwhelmed, or even upset, try not to get triggered. You can validate their feelings without losing sight of your goals. Phew! Okay, we had the conversation. We found out how much your parents wanted to contribute. We found out how many people they want to invite to your wedding. We talked about the potential issues that we might have with certain family members or boundaries that we wanted to put down with our parents. The parental talk isn't just about announcing your engagement. It's also about laying the foundation for a collaborative and joyful planning journey. So by being prepared as a couple, communicating openly, and respecting everyone's feelings, you can turn what might feel like a stressful step into a meaningful and even bonding experience. So after you have the talk with your parents, then listen to our next episode, which we will continue with the prep work series by discussing whether you need a wedding planner or not. That one is going to be a lot of fun for me. Before I go, don't forget to join our Big Day DIY planning community on Facebook to connect with other couples, share your experiences, and find support. And as always, Big Day DIY to grab your free resources from our Google Drive when you sign up for the monthly newsletter. And also on our website, you can share topic suggestions, sign up to be a beta tester for the Big Day DIY planning workbook for some free personal wedding planning hours with me while you help me fine-tune the book before it's published. I truly hope this episode helped make the conversation easier with the parents and got everyone on the same page. And if you know somebody that would benefit from listening to this episode, please share, like, and subscribe to anywhere you're listening to this podcast. And until next time, happy planning.